Breaking news at 8, a suspect captured after a deadly hostage standoff at a Silver Lake Trader Joe's.
It happened at the Trader Joe's on Hyperion Avenue. That's between Rowena Avenue and Griffith Park Boulevard. Here's the latest. The suspect has been captured. The LAPD identified him only as a 28-year-old man. Police also confirmed a woman died outside the store. The suspect was wanted for shooting 2 people in South LA. He led police on a chase through Hollywood. The suspect then crashed his car at the Trader Joe's just before entering the store and then taking hostages.
Lynne Westafer is a member of our KCAL9 CBS 2 family and was actually in the store when all of this unfolded. She joins us live by phone. Lynne, first off, how are you feeling right now?
Oh, you know, I'm feeling a little rattled, but I'm fine. Thanks you.
Understandably rattled. Just walk us through what happened.
So, so if you know the Trader Joe's, I was over in the cheese section, and then we heard a bunch of gunfire. It was like 5 or 6 shots that rang out, and we all just hit the floor. Now, that part of the store, that section is, sorry, a whole bunch of people just walked up. I'm going to move someplace a little more quiet. That part of the store faces directly toward the door. So, had to hit the deck and move as far away from that part of it. And my phone was sitting on the cart when we all dove for cover. So I'm behind the bread area. We're just like huddled on the floor. I'm with like 6 or 7 other people, and we're just sitting there, and we can't see anything. And every now and then we'll hear this guy yell. There were a few, I should say, there were probably 2 to 3 rounds of gunfire that went off, 5 to 6 shots each. And when it first happened, I don't know. I don't have any information about whether police fired or if it was only him. I don't know. But we were down there by the bread on the floor, sitting for, an hour, maybe. I don't know. I couldn't see a clock, but it seemed like forever. And then it was really alarming when a Trader Joe's employee came over and motioned for us to stand up because he wanted us to come over and sit by him. And that seemed like a really scary change in the situation, but we did it. And I was seated the furthest away. He was seated with his back to the wall. There's like water bottles of water that they line up all along that wall in the Trader Joe's. He was sitting that way, facing, now there's a helicopter overhead, I'm so sorry. He was facing towards the cashier. And we were brought over sort of sitting on the aisle side and into the cashier area. And I was like out in the aisle. And he did not seem high on drugs to me. He was shot. And there was a woman who really acted as a, what would be the word? She really worked to try to keep him calm and to sort of almost advocate on his behalf. And you know, was speaking to the police and whatnot. He seemed like he might have been in shock, actually, because he was very cold, and they kept getting him, you know, sweatshirts and things like that. So he just was pretty aggro, and so we're sitting on the floor, and there were a couple different times when he threatened us flat out. And it happened when he wanted to speak to his granny. And they were trying to track her down because I hope this is confirmed, but we heard that he had shot her.
Yes.
She was at County USC, and she was going into surgery, and so here he wants to find his grandmother who he shot, to talk to her and find out if she's okay. It's like, dude, she's under general anesthesia.
Wow.
But he was very, very aggravated about all that and was yelling, and if you don't hold up your part, then I don't remember exactly the verbiage, but the indication was he was going to start killing us if he didn't get to talk to his granny. At one point, he started counting down, which was like, I think that was terrifying. He started, counting down from 5. That if he didn't get what he wanted, and I think it was like phone call. I think it's all kind of a blur, but he started counting down, and I'm making eye contact with these women across from me, and we're just like, oh my God, are we going to die here? I mean, I had flip-flops on. I took them off, and I am ready to run. Like, I am not dying in this store. There's no way I'm going to let you shoot me. And so this went on. I think I was there for 2.5 hours or 3 hours. I don't know exactly. Mm-hmm. But we sat there, and slowly he would let people go. He let that boy go. I was around 13 or so. He was the first one of my group that he let out. And then slowly others were released, and I was one of them. So I don't know. There's so much more I could tell you. Ask me a question.
Sure.
I don't know what
yes,
to say.
Lynn, of course, understandably.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
We completely understand how you're feeling right now in terms of your emotions are raw, and certainly this is still a situation that's not over yet, and you're still trying to process this. So thank you just for talking with us, Lynn.
And Lynn, I think there's a shot coming up of you in just a few seconds. While you just take a minute and listen, we have footage of you coming out of the store that's about to air on KCAL9. So
great.
How many people were with you when you were released? How many people do you think were in the store with you? There you are.
There you are, Lynn.
I was released alone at that point. So I had been moved over with 7 people who were hiding by the bread aisle. And when I was released, there were probably I was one of the last. There was just one other Trader Joe's guy of my group. So the other 5 had been released, and then I got released. And I saw him come out, but quite some time later. I think he locked it down after that and wasn't letting anybody out. Now, his strategy was that he wanted to give himself up, but he didn't want to get shot. He did not want to put the gun down. And so what he wanted was a pair of handcuffs so that he would walk out handcuffed, and then they wouldn't shoot a handcuffed man. That was sort of his plan. Now, I will not speak to the logic of that, but so there was just a lot of drama around working. I am not in any way criticizing the hostage negotiator. I will say that whatever strategy was being employed was pretty unhelpful at times. It got really heated, hence the countdown. And, I forgot to tell you. So when they moved us from the bread aisle over there, I'm seated the furthest out into the aisle, and I'm looking out, and I can see through the windows. There's bullet holes in the windows of the Trader Joe's, and there is blood all over the floor. And it was like it took my breath away. It got really real right then because I didn't know if anybody had been shot. We had no information. I don't know if that was his blood. I don't know if that was his victim. No, she was outside, so it must have been his. There was just a trail of blood, and we had to sit trying to dodge it.
Well,
and I was there so long. I mean,
Lynn, you knew somebody obviously was bleeding. He was shot. Just to update you so you know, he wanted to talk to his grandmother, but he shot her 7 times. Yeah, so
she's in critical condition right now at County USC Medical Center.
Oh my goodness.
So
oh my goodness.
Understandable.
And then he wanted. Then here's another really strange twist, which I wouldn't have believed if I hadn't heard it myself. Apparently, he wanted the police to track down a young woman who was reported missing. Her name is Mia. And he wanted the LAPD to track down her family and to get her family on the phone. I don't remember her last name.
Okay, now I'll just give you another piece of information. There was another young woman who he shot and kidnapped from the same location that his grandmother was shot. He shot his grandmother and another young woman.
Could be his girlfriend.
Yes, and he kidnapped the young woman. She got a graze wound to her head and brought her to the Trader Joe's location. So maybe that could be Mia. Maybe that's somebody completely different. But we're kind of connecting the dots here, and we don't know the full picture.
Okay.
But we're giving an idea. He had shot 2 other people before shooting and killing the woman who died inside Trader Joe's.
I'm really glad I did not know that he had shot these other people, especially shooting his grandmother 7 times while I was sitting on the floor, because I kept thinking that this guy he's not going to do anything. I mean, except when he would escalate. Like there were these 3-4 moments, and the worst was the countdown where he would start yelling and it's going to be your fault if something happens to these people. But he just seemed like sort of the fight had gone out of him quite a bit. He was shot a couple times. He was bleeding. There was a woman there who was the one who was advocating for him, who was, helping him. And I just kept thinking lady, grab the gun and end this thing, but easy for me to say. I wasn't I wasn't
Sure.
next to him.
I mean,
But,
yeah, you're in a life or death situation. Were people talking to
but
each
when they
other?
moved-
Was there any communication amongst the hostages?
Well, we tried to keep quiet. We heard while we were over by the bread, he started yelling to somebody to put the dang phone down. He didn't use the word dang.
Sure.
And so we all were aware that he did not, want us on our phone. So I didn't have mine, but other people, we just sat there. We just sat there. But I was going to say that when they moved us over from the bread aisle and I was sitting there and I was looking out the window with the bullet holes in it, I saw the helmet of LAPD. I think they were SWAT out in the parking lot, like back under this tree. And it gave me so much peace to just see them out there. And I tried to, relay information if I could. Like, I don't know how to do hand signals, but like when it sounded like he was going to give up, I gave a little, I put my hands up and I pointed towards the guy just to clue him in. And then when he started the countdown, I was looking at him like, get ready to come in here. Cause it was super scary. And here's one other part. He saw SWAT officers on the roof of the cheese store next door. Mm-hmm. And, he got super agitated and was demanding. That's actually, I'm sorry, I'm remembering now, that's when he did the countdown. It was with the officer with the gun on the roof, and he was demanding that they get off the roof. And that was the scariest part for sure.
How was he making these demands, Lynn? Was he talking to them on the phone or was he shouting this?
Oh, no, they were on the phone. They were talking on the phone for the entire time, off and on. But yeah, there was a lot of blah blah back and forth with the officer, the negotiator, and he had his own agenda, and this guy had his own agenda, and they were not on the same page, and so it got really tense. He really wanted to talk to his granny, and he was just insisting on that, and I guess they had to drive over to County USC to try to make that happen. But he did let people go, and he didn't shoot anybody else. I didn't even see him point the gun at anybody.
And how did he let people go? Did he just point at people and say, you're free, or what was the method?
That's a great question. I was kind of ducked. I mean, dude, I'm telling you, I was ready to run. So I just was hiding. At Trader Joe's, they have those kiosky things at each counter where they're selling the sugar that you don't want to buy. So I was sort of tucked just so he could still see me enough so he knew I didn't leave, but I was not looking at him because I did not want to make eye contact with him. So I'm not exactly sure, how he decided, but or how that happened. But the guy who works at Trader Joe's pointed to people who I guess he indicated or whatever, and then he had locked the door on the way out. There was this one moment where the bad guy wanted the door locked, and there was a Trader Joe's employee next to me, and the other one was like, do you have the keys? And I whispered to him, don't you give him the keys. Do not lock that door. And he didn't. I don't know if he had them or not, but he still managed to get it locked. And so every time a hostage would be let out, this guy who was great, he was so great. He was so calm. He was wonderful. He went over and would open the door, and then we'd walk out. And it was like, that was crazy. Walking, there's a SWAT vehicle right outside the door, and I see 2-3 of them up on top. It's like a tank. And the door opens, and I walk out with my hands up, and I turn the corner, and there's how many hundred of LAPD officers? Oh my gosh, it was like a sea of them. It was wild. It was wild.
And we weren't sure what was happening inside of Trader Joe's while the situation was happening. You said 2 to 3 rounds, 5 to 6 shot each. Was that in the beginning?
Yeah,
was that spread out? Okay.
That was right in the beginning. That's when we all dove for cover. So we hear shots, and we're like, what is happening? And then we dive for cover, and there's another round. And then I want to say it was a couple minutes later that there was a third. That's my memory of it.
And at what point?
I don't know who or what got shot. I don't know.
And
but,
Lynn, at what point did you realize that you couldn't leave?
Oh, immediately.
That he was holding you hostage.
Yeah, was he yelling at people? Because we heard from some social media posts that he was ordering people around. I don't know if you were in that part of the store, though.
I was not in that part of the store. I was way over on the far side, and it was really hard to hear in there because they had the music blasting. And so I could hear him yell sometimes, but
Yeah.
it was hard to understand what he was yelling about. But I could hear from his voice sort of where he was. And again, my cart, I desperately wanted to get to my phone, which sounds so dumb now, but it's like, I'm a journalist. And this
Lynne,
is a big
don't
story.
you dare.
No, I know, but it was like, I was so annoyed. I was so
that you
annoyed
were
that it's like,
more
of
concerned with
course
your
I don't have my
well-being
phone.
than you were than getting the story, but we appreciate
know,
your your journalistic input, but still, I mean, we're just glad you're okay. And
Yeah,
so
me too. I am too. It's just, you know.
And there's
like,
a shot
how
of
many
you
times
again.
in
and
your
we
life?
keep seeing these images of you coming out with your hands up, and again, we're just
Great.
relieved you're fine. But and I love that you're maintaining your sense of humor, by the way.
I know.
My primary coping mechanism.
And Lynn, what
what-
was that moment like walking, when you knew you were being freed, when you were walking out, when you knew this was over?
You know, the truth is that I felt overwhelmingly furious, and I actually said something that isn't fit for broadcast about that guy.
Understandably.
I just felt like, oh my God, this shark. Ugh. I just felt furious. I'm still actually mostly furious.
Of course.
Well, it's interesting that even though I'm sure you were scared, a lot of the people were actually helping the suspect, you said, by helping with his
Yes.
gunshot wounds.
It was interesting the way that went down, and I really don't want to criticize. You know, I mean, I don't know that that I would have made the choices that they made. I mean, I hope I'm a compassionate person, and I don't want him to bleed out. I want him to make it, but I don't know. I should process that a little more before I say anything
Well, sure.
on TV
When
about
somebody,
it.
when somebody has a gun, of
Right.
course, people are scared, and you do things when
Yeah.
you fear for your life that you normally
Right.
wouldn't do if you were in a different
Right.
situation. If he wasn't armed.
And I don't know the backstory. Like, he
Sure.
may have told people that, you know, there was this woman who was like really up involved in all this, but he may have like coerced her into doing that. You know, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know if she volunteered or whatnot, but she was actually like really calm, and I think she was mostly helpful in the situation. You know, I don't want to criticize. It's, you know, like, what's the protocol? How do you prepare?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're still processing the emotions of being inside of Trader Joe's for 3 hours this afternoon, just doing your weekend shopping along with
Yep.
other families. We saw young children coming out and being
Yep.
reunited with their parents.
Yeah.
And before we
Yeah.
let you go, Lynn, tell us how you felt. It must have been a relief once you got out of the store and knew that you were safe.
Oh, again, I was mostly angry. I mean, I actually didn't. There were a few spiking moments of total terror, but for the most part, I really didn't think he was going to do anything. This just felt like he, you know, the truth is he just sort of felt like he loved the power, and he was going to milk this for all it was worth, and that's what he did. And I didn't really think that that something really bad was going to happen, except for those 3 or 4. You know, moments of total escalation. But for the most part, he kept saying, like, I don't want to hurt anybody, and, you know, just let me talk to my granny.
And you were able to get your phone back before you left.
No, it's still in there.
Your phone is
Might
still
be
in there?
My phone, my keys. I got to try to break into my own house. I don't know if I have a key hidden or not.
How are you talking to us right now?
Oh, I borrowed the pastor's phone at the church. He's such a great guy.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, the whole community has really come out to support everybody who's been going through so much today, from being stuck inside Trader Joe's to some of the people who ran away and had cuts and bruises, and they treated their wounds.
And the employees of Trader Joe's are so devastated. I can't even tell you how upset they are. I mean, it's just heartbreaking that this young woman, apparently she had just gotten promoted, and she's only like in her late 20s, and everyone loved her, and they are just like destroyed by this.
So we didn't know she was a Trader Joe's employee until now.
Yeah, that's my understanding. That's what I was
Sure.
told, or they all said that.
A
so.
lot of them were just gathered outside of Trader Joe's wearing their uniform. So we knew that they were worried about people inside, but I'm sure they didn't want to talk as well, understandably. But now we know they knew she had been shot as well. So there's that added
Well,
gravity.
and what I heard was, now I heard this, so, you know, take it for what it's worth, but I was talking to some people about what went down because I couldn't see anything. And they said that she was shot outside or right near the door, and that other employees dragged her out to try to get her help, which explains how, you know, she wasn't still in there when they moved me, you know, over. Because I had no idea that anyone got shot until someone mentioned it during a very heated moment with the negotiator. So, yeah.
Well,
I think she died at the scene. I think that's right. But we'll have to wait for the official on that.
Yes, we will. All right, Lynne Westafer, thank you so much for speaking with us. Your
and take care of
detailed
yourself.
account of what
Yes.
happened. We were this is incredible just to hear your account of what unfolded inside of this Trader Joe's, and just
Oh, and there's so much more that I didn't see. Like, there's so many other people to talk to. Like, I didn't even see him come in. I didn't even know that the car had crashed until I got released and walked out. Oh, I guess it was a pursuit. So you're just sitting there, like, with no information for 3 hours, and you're a journalist, and you have no information. You're like, this is terrible. You want to know what's going on.
Well, again, we're glad you're okay, Lynn, and,
Yeah,
and thank you
I
so
am.
much for
I'm
speaking with
totally
us.
fine.
And we look forward to seeing you again and giving you a huge hug
Yes.
when
Oh,
you get
thanks.
back here.
Okay.
See you
Thank
soon.
you.
Thank you, Lynn.